Welcome back. You are listening to the home of forbidden romances. Prepare yourself, because tonight's story will leave you breathless. The barrel of a gun would have been less terrifying than the face sleeping on the pillow next to mine. I woke up with the taste of stale whiskey on my tongue and the heavy, crushing weight of a stranger's arm draped over my waist, pinning me to a mattress that cost more than my entire apartment. My head throbbed in a violent rhythm, sinking with the panic clawing at my throat as I dared to turn my head. I expected a stranger. I prayed for a stranger. But the universe, in its infinite cruelty, gave me the one man I had spent the last decade despising. Silas Vane, the CEO of Vane Enterprises, the untouchable king of the architectural world, and, more importantly, the man my childhood friend and lifelong crush, Adrian, had been obsessively in love with for 5 years. Silas was Adrian's white moonlight, the unreachable, pristine ideal that made everyone else, myself included, look like dirt by comparison. And I was naked in his bed. Memories of the previous night fractured into my mind like broken glass. The charity gala. Adrian laughing, adjusting Silas's tie with a reverence he never showed me. The announcement. Adrian's engagement to a woman he didn't love, solely to secure a business merger that would bring him closer to Silas's sphere of influence. I remembered the shattered champagne flute, the rain, the desperate need to be held, to be told I mattered. I had stumbled into a limousine I thought was Adrian's. I had grabbed a lapel I thought belonged to Adrian. I had begged, pleaded through tears for him to just look at me, to hold me, to stop looking at the horizon and see the person standing right in front of him. I froze as the arm around my waist tightened. Silas Vane's eyes opened. They were not the warm, honey brown of Adrian's. They were gray, storm cloud gray, sharp, cold, and terrifyingly lucid. There was no sleep in them. He had been awake. He had been watching me panic. Stop shaking, Julian. Silas's voice was a low rumble, vibrating against my chest. It's unbecoming. What? My voice cracked, dry and pathetic. What did we do? Silas sat up, the silk sheets pooling around his waist, revealing a sculpted, pale torso scarred with the faintest lines of old injuries. Imperfections Adrian claimed didn't exist on his perfect idol. Silas looked down at me, his expression unreadable, calculating. You cried, Silas stated flatly. You vomited on my shoes. You begged me to make the pain stop. And then you passed out. He leaned in, his face inches from mine, smelling of expensive sandalwood and danger. Nothing happened, Julian. Though, considering how you clung to me and whispered Adrian's name, I imagine you're disappointed I'm not him. The humiliation was a physical blow. I scrambled backward, clutching the sheet to my chest, my face burning. I made a mistake. I'm leaving. You're not going anywhere. It wasn't a request. It was a command. Silas stood up, completely unbothered by his nudity, and walked toward the wardrobe. The power dynamic shifted instantly. I was the intruder, the mess, the pathetic sidekick who loved a man who didn't love him back. Silas was the predator in his own den. Adrian is on his way up, Silas said casually, pulling on a pair of charcoal trousers. My blood ran cold. What? He tracked your phone. He's worried. He thinks you've been kidnapped. Silas turned, buttoning a pristine white shirt, his eyes locking onto mine with a predatory glint. If he finds you here, in my bed, wearing nothing but a sheet, he will be devastated. His best friend and his idol, betraying him in the worst way possible. Please, I whispered, the fight draining out of me. I can't lose him. He's all I have. Silas paused. A strange, dark emotion flickered across his face, something that looked dangerously like anger. He walked back to the bed, looming over me. He placed a hand on the mattress on either side of my hips, trapping me. That is exactly the problem, Julian. He is all you have. You have hollowed yourself out to be a vessel for his ego. Silas's hand moved, his thumb grazing my jawline. His touch was rough, calloused, shocking against my skin. I will help you. I will get you out of here unseen. I will even help you hide this. Indiscretion. Why? I asked, trembling. Why would you help me? You hate me. I'm just Adrian's annoying shadow to you. Silas leaned down, his lips brushing the shell of my ear. Because nothing in this world is free. I'll save your reputation, Julian. But in return, you belong to me. You will work for me. You will be my personal architect for the Kincaid Estate project. And you will do exactly as I say. I swallowed hard. The Kincaid Estate was the project of the century. It would make my career. But working under Silas? Being indebted to the man who held Adrian's heart in a vice grip? Do we have a deal? Silas asked, the sound of the elevator dinging in the hallway outside the penthouse suite. Adrian was here. Yes, I gasped out. Yes, deal. The weeks that followed were a blur of high-stress meetings, sleepless nights, and a confusing, suffocating proximity to Silas Vane. He was a tyrant. That was the only word for it. He demanded perfection. He tore apart my drafts with ruthless efficiency, pointing out flaws I hadn't even seen. But he was also puzzling. He knew how I took my coffee. He knew I was left-handed and ordered custom drafting tools for my station in his office. When I worked late, forgetting to eat, food from my favorite obscure Thai place would appear on my desk without a word. It was psychological warfare. He was breaking me down and building me back up, molding me into something sharper, harder. Meanwhile, Adrian was spiraling. The engagement was stressing him out, and his obsession with Silas had turned feverish. He constantly asked me about my new boss, fishing for details about Silas's life, blind to the fact that I was drowning. Does he talk about me? Adrian asked one evening. We were at a bar, the neon lights casting him in a sickly blue hue. He swirled his drink, looking pathetic and beautiful. He sent a gift for the engagement party. A vase. Do you think it means something? I gripped my glass until my knuckles turned white. It means he has a secretary who handles gifts, Adrian. Stop reading into it. Adrian scowled. You're just jealous. You've always been jealous that he respects me. He doesn't respect you. I snapped, the alcohol and exhaustion finally breaking the dam. He barely knows you exist, Adrian. You're chasing a ghost. Adrian stood up, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. And you're just bitter because you're a failure, Julian. You're working for him as a charity case. Everyone knows it. He stormed out. I sat there, the words echoing in my head. Asterisk failure. Charity case. Asterisk, I didn't go home that night. I went back to the office. I poured myself into the blueprints of the Kincaid estate, drawing lines until my vision blurred. Around 2 a.m., the door to my office opened. Silas stood there. He was wearing a black turtleneck and a long trench coat, looking like a noir detective stepping out of the rain. He was drenched. You're still here, he said quietly. I have work to do. I muttered, not looking up. Silas walked over and pulled the stylus from my hand. You're crying. I touched my cheek. I hadn't even realized it. He said I was a charity case. I whispered, the shame bubbling up again. That you only hired me out of pity. Silas made a noise in his throat, a growl of pure frustration. He grabbed my chin, forcing me to look at him. The intensity in his gray eyes pinned me to the chair. Pity. Silas laughed, a harsh, jagged sound. You think I let you into my home, into my bed, into my business out of pity? You think I tolerate your incompetence with the coffee machine and your chaotic workspace because I feel sorry for you? Then why? I yelled back, pushing his hand away. Why are you doing this? You're Adrian's white moonlight. You're the god on the pedestal. Why are you wasting time with the psychic? I am not his white moonlight. Silas roared, his composure finally shattering. The silence that followed was deafening. Silas took a breath, running a hand through his damp hair. When he looked at me again, the ice was gone. There was fire there now. A terrifying, consuming fire. I never looked at him, Julian. Not once. For 5 years, he has thrown himself at my feet, and I stepped over him to get a better view of you. My heart hammered against my ribs like a trapped bird. What? At the gala, Silas stepped closer, invading my space, trapping me against the drafting table. You weren't the one who made a mistake. I saw you leave. I saw you crying. I followed you. When you got into my car. When you grabbed my coat. I didn't push you away because I didn't want to. But I called you Adrian. I breathed. Yes, Silas hissed, his eyes dark with jealousy. You called me his name while I held you together. You have no idea how much I wanted to strangle him. I hate him, Julian. I hate him because he has your heart, and he treats it like a cheap toy. I hate him because you look at him like he's the sun, and you look at me like I'm the shadow that blocks his light. He placed his hands on the table on either side of me, leaning down until our foreheads touched. I didn't hire you to mock you. I hired you to show you what you're worth. I hired you to make you mine. My mind was reeling. The villain. The rival. The cold, unfeeling monster. He had been watching me. Wanting me. You're lying, I stammered. You're manipulating me. Am I? Silas captured my lips. It wasn't a gentle kiss. It was a claiming. It was 5 years of pent-up frustration and desire crashing down on me. He kissed me like he wanted to devour me, his tongue demanding entry, his hands gripping my waist with bruising force. It was terrifying. It was electric. For the first time in my life, I wasn't begging for crumbs of affection. I was drowning in an ocean of it. I kissed him back. I grabbed his hair, pulling him closer, a desperate noise escaping my throat. The taste of him, rain and coffee and sheer dominance, erased Adrian's name from my mind. When we finally broke apart, gasping for air, Silas rested his forehead against mine. Forget him, Silas commanded, his voice rough. Be my rival. Be my partner. Be my enemy if you have to. But stop being his victim. The day of the Kincaid estate unveiling arrived 3 months later. The ballroom was filled with the city's elite. I stood next to the model of the estate, dressed in a tuxedo Silas had bought me, midnight blue, tailored to perfection. I felt different. I stood straighter. The validation of my work, the undeniable success of the design, had healed parts of me I didn't know were broken. And there was Silas. He stood across the room, surrounded by investors, yet his eyes kept finding mine. Every time they did, a shiver went down my spine. We hadn't defined what we were. We were sleeping together. We were fighting over design choices. We were intense. Julian. I turned. Adrian was there. He looked disheveled. The engagement was off. The merger had fallen through, and the fiancé had left him. He looked at me with wide, desperate eyes. You did this, Adrian said, gesturing to the model. It's amazing, Jules. Really. Thank you, Adrian. My voice was steady. No stutter. No longing. Adrian stepped closer, grabbing my hand. I made a mistake, Jules. With everything. I see it now. You're the one who's always been there. You're the talented one. I think I love you. It was the moment I had dreamed of since I was 16. The confession. The realization. And I felt nothing. No butterflies. No soaring heart. Just a dull pity for a man who only wanted what he realized someone else valued. You don't love me, Adrian, I said softly, pulling my hand away. You just lost your prize, and you're looking for a safety net. No, he's right. The crowd parted as Silas approached. He moved like a shark in the water, smooth and lethal. He came to stand beside me, his shoulder brushing mine. A subtle, possessive gesture that screamed ownership to anyone paying attention. Silas, Adrian breathed, his eyes lighting up with that familiar, sickening worship. I didn't know you'd be here with Julian. I am always where Julian is, Silas said coldly. He didn't even look at Adrian. His gaze was fixed on the crowd, addressing everyone and no one. And for the record, Thorne, Julian isn't your safety net. He is the architect of my future, and he is entirely out of your league. Adrian paled, looking between us. He saw the proximity. He saw the way my body leaned instinctively toward Silas. He saw the mark on my neck that I hadn't covered quite well enough. You, Adrian whispered, horror dawning on him. You and him? But, you're my white moonlight, Silas. You're supposed to be, I am nothing to you. Silas cut him off, his voice like a guillotine. He turned to me, his expression softening into that private warmth only I was allowed to see. Ready to go, Julian? I believe we have a celebration to attend to. I looked at Adrian, the boy I had loved, the man who had used me. Then I looked at Silas, the man who challenged me, who terrified me, and who saw me. Yes, I said, turning my back on my childhood friend. Let's go home. As we walked away, Silas's hand found the small of my back. You handled that well, he murmured. I had a good teacher, I replied. Just remember, Silas whispered, his lips grazing my ear as we stepped into the cool night air. You begged me to hold you that night, Julian. Now, I'm never letting go. And that is how the viper tamed the wolf. If you enjoyed seeing Silas take control and claim what was his, destroy that like button. And tell me in the comments, would you choose the childhood love who ignored you, or the dangerous rival who obsessed over you? I'll be reading your answers. Subscribe for the next chapter. Until then.